Hi, I'm Jake. Welcome to Wisdom Check. I usually have stuff about Pathfinder 2, gaming news, stuff like that. I have AJ on today because he's awesome. And I fell in love with his lore videos. They're on my phone. Like, I listen to them
Aw,
still. Yeah, I know. I was hoping that wasn't creepy. So cool.
no, not at all.
So we're here to talk about like shit you got to deal with in a game and the future of gaming.
Oh yeah, the future of gaming. Let's get this the shit that you're gonna like. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to me in a group that has come to my house? Goodness of my heart, I invited a bunch of people that there was only two people that I knew, and I'd never gamed with. Well, I'd gamed with them before in person once at a convention, and I was just like, come around and bring some friends. So they brought one cool person, one okay person, and two really not right people. The two really not right people, because that's the one we want to hear about, they showed up, and the one was sort of sitting in the corner and didn't really interact with me much at that time, but her friend basically gave me a full grilling of everything that like she was asking all sorts of personal questions, like really inappropriately. And I was like, okay with it, because I'm like this older male. They're in my house and we were about to play a role-playing game. So I was just
And
like,
you're also a relaxed dude in general.
Yeah, generally speaking, I'm very honest. And so I was answering all these personal questions, and it got to the point where the two people that I knew were like, that doesn't, like, this is a little bit overboard sort of thing. Like, we've already vouched for AJ, he's okay. And I was just like answering these questions, and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, what character do you want to play? I want to play an elf called Lucifer Morningstar. I was like, okay, right,
It's just Lord in the making.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, what song do you want to hear? Oh, can you play Stairway to Heaven? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and then this person was not there to play a role-playing game. It turns out, in the fullness of time, she was there because the person that was sitting on the other end of the table was she's one of those. She had a history of any guy that she meets, she just has a delusion that they've got some attraction going on, and she wants to form a relationship with that person. So she turned up and was using her friend to grill me to see if I was like boyfriend material.
This is not a date.
No, this is all kinds of wrong. So later on, at the end of the game, I was just like, oh, hey, this is fun. If anybody wants to come around and paint their characters and paint some miniatures this weekend, you can come around and we'll paint some miniatures and stuff. And so I had it all laid out and everything. She's the only one that showed up, and she sat on the other side of the table, didn't paint her miniature at all the entire time. I was just sort of sitting there uncomfortably and talking. And then, later, and at the end of it, I was just like, okay, my miniature's done. Like, well, I'll see you later. And she's like, oh, like, that's it. And then, like, sort of walked her out to the car, and she was just, like, waiting for, like, a kiss at the end of the date thing. I was just like, this is really, really, really uncomfortable.
Interesting. So she mistook it entirely as a date. You invited everybody. Why would you invite everybody for a date?
Yeah. So the way I resolved that situation was basically that exploded the group. And I did discuss it. I ended up being good friends with the person that the people that I gamed at the convention brought along, who was a good role player and was really into it. We ended up being good friends. And we did end up playing some other games together with the couple that were from the gaming convention. So we played some online games and stuff, but I didn't play any more at-home games that year because of that, because it just freaked me out so badly.
I can't blame you, because now she knows where you live. She can slip little love notes under the door and bring her cat. I don't know.
Yeah, it did get a little bit like that. Yeah, and I had to basically say, look, you have problems. Like, you got problems. That was really, really creepy. You do not do that. Like, if you put that in a different situation, that was a guy. Yeah, and I was that was all kinds of wrong.
Very, very obvious.
Yeah, so it does actually happen. I can say that happened to me. This does happen. It can happen. It's not always the other way around sort of thing. Sometimes as a male, you do get like targeted like that sort of thing as well.
I don't understand that. Like, it happened to me once, and it confused the crap out of me. I thought she just liked my jokes. I had no idea at first.
Yeah. I mean, most guys are pretty gormless when it comes to like picking up on signals and stuff anyway. And unfortunately, we are sort of forced to be trusting and put ourselves out there. Mm-hmm. and yeah, we are wide open to abuse as well. But
It's interesting that you handled that like in segments with different factions of that group. Like you had to handle the people that you met with before and the people that knew you, and then this lady.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like that. It's like levels of trust and knowledge of that person. And yeah, I don't have any, like, we didn't have safety tools or anything like that at the time, so I didn't know what to do. I felt very like, oh, this is terrible. Like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, and also added to the fact that this person was a racist, so that was not cool, and that came up during the game as well. Just completely unprompted comments. Yeah,
Oh, just like those fill in the blank people. Yeah, you know.
yeah, yeah. It was the other way around. She was racist against white people, and she was a person of color. So, and she just brought it up all the time. And like, it's
Then
probably
why would she
more
want to
common.
date you?
I don't. Yeah, all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was really uncomfortable as well. So to the point where I had to say, "Hey, look, man, that's got like nothing to do with this game. Like, why do you keep mentioning that? It's just, can you just not?" You know. But yeah, it
Wow.
was very, very uncomfortable. Like flashbacks thinking about it.
How long did the whole like resolving period take? Like not her being there with the miniatures, but after that, like how long did it take for you to be cool with the other people and get her off
Now,
your property?
it took about 2 months for the fullness of like what she was doing to come out, and me to like get around my head that like you knew that that was her behavior, and she like came around and you didn't know the person that she brought around at all. So like that was not cool. I feel kind of betrayed in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
That was why we didn't continue having any games, because I just didn't trust them at that point.
You were ambushed.
Yeah, I was ambushed. Yeah, yeah. But like I kind of take it like as a point of pride that even though that happened, I'm still open to inviting strangers to play games at my house, because I like this hobby and I think people generally benefit from it, and I get all of my social activity from it. So, so I'm still willing to put myself out there, sort of thing.
That makes sense, especially for like both of us. We grew up with the only way of playing this game being at a table at somebody's house. Like you didn't play it over the internet. You couldn't play it by yourself like people are doing now. You had to be willing to share space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as a result, you got some pretty good lifelong friends out of it. Yeah, these days I don't know. Like the younger generation, I can't really speak for them, but it seems like they have a lot more social anxiety, a lot more social
It
anxiety.
seems so, but maybe it's
Yeah,
because that's what's most prevalent and obvious online. People bitching about that.
it's this.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's
it's like,
yeah, that's
oh
true.
my god, oh my god. Like this person's talking to me. Oh my god. Like,
I have
yeah,
noticed that with people who are younger than me, including just a few years younger than me. So I think it has to do with, sure, age, but only in that age impacts maturity. So I think it's really maturity and your priorities. Do you want to be present, or are you just trying to get through it?
yeah. It's ironic too, because like as soon as you get one of these things, you're the full gamut of society is thrown at you, and the risks involved and everything too. So we're like hammering home to them how dangerous and predatory people can be, and they're exposed to that all the time. So they learn blocking tools and anonymity very early on. But this, but it's not like proper socializing. It's not like,
Yeah, they're not learning
dealing
tools
with,
of dealing with people.
yeah, yeah. And schools and stuff these days are very different to what they used to be. You
Oh,
hear us Gen X people talking about like, how we basically just, here's a stick, go play outside somewhere in the traffic. You know,
yeah. I remember being pushed out of the house several times by my mom.
yeah.
Um,
Come home if you're poisoned or injured. You know.
I didn't have a lot of that experience growing up, but I also didn't have like any social experience growing up. When I was a kid, I didn't really have the go out and play and hurt yourself things, but that's partly because I claimed I was sick all the time. And so I got to read in my room a lot. So I didn't learn anything about socializing. And then I went right into being a DM. Maybe there could have been a step between those of like learning what people are,
Mm-hmm.
but I learned by pissing off friends and crashing and burning sessions. So cool. And then years later, I'm like, I met a lady. Eventually, I got married to her. But before that, she was like all about communication and logic and psychology. And I'm like, what's that? And so I started learning from that. And then it was interesting to me. So I did other things. I took a college communications course, two of them actually, and I took psychology courses and I looked shit up online and I just learned about how people work and then tested it out in person and it was fine. It's like people need that training to get out of their childhood into adulthood, and it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true. Communications is a fun course to take at university. I got shoved up in front of 200 people in a lecture theatre, and the lecturer basically said, "Talk about something." And I said, "Okay, hands up. How many people have got body piercings?" And like a number of people put their hands up. And I said, "How many people have got a cell phone?" A number of people put their hands up. And I said, "How many people would combine if they could get a body piercing that had all the functionality of their cell phone? How many people would do that?" And everybody put their hands up. And I said, "Okay, that's cybernetics. So let's talk about cybernetics today."
Holy shit, that was a good intro.
Yeah, and then I just went into like all the stuff that I wrote for Rifts.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was just like, "This is the possibilities of cybernetics," and I was just like, blah 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 blah. And everybody was like, the lecturer's just like,
"Who the hell are you?"
Yeah, it's like, wow, that was like, you think about that a lot, and I'm like, I'm a role player.
Yeah, it's true.
And later on, they said, make a social group online and interact with the people in that social group. And at the end of 2 weeks, come back with your printout of all the social interactions. And most people like made pet groups for Facebook pages. I started a play by post game in the Lycosian Galaxy with 10 players, using Heroes Unlimited rules.
Oh
I came back with a 121 page document and said,
"Yeah, I didn't think they wanted to read that."
So like, your referencing could have been better, AJ. Yeah.
Well, how do you reference that? I mean, it's a story. It's like a lifelong story. You can't just be like, well, at this point, I made friends.
Yeah, it was a specific part in the thing where I was saying that it's different from a video game because there's like emotional elements and you've got complete control over your character and what they do. It's not on a track and stuff. And so I was referencing bits in the story where this took place or this interaction took place. And I should have got a better grade, but I wasn't a writer that I am now back then.
But you did the assignment. I mean, you did like way more of the assignment than they wanted. But you didn't know that.
But I wasn't at university to get degrees anyway. I was there to have fun. The future of gaming. Let's go there.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got a renaissance going on at the moment in indie gaming, which is really, really good. And it's back to normal for people from pre-COVID, not COVID-19, pre-5th edition era.
Pre-4th edition.
Pre-4th edition even?
Well, I would say so because that's how I grew up. There are games everywhere. They're like, let's try this one this week. And that just makes sense. Like D&D isn't the world.
Very much not so. So there are games which are much better at doing things than D&D is. One of those is sci-fi.
Yeah.
So you've got Traveller and Battletech and Robotech and all sorts of techie type games. Mutant Apocalypse types games. There's all sorts of sci-fi-esque like X-Files type games like Delta Green, and there's Call of Cthulhu for doing horror and that sort of stuff. All sorts of things. I think most people who play 5th edition who have grown into the hobby playing 5th edition should be exposed to something like Call of Cthulhu where your character is expected to get like mangled and die.
Right, like death saves.
That's the fun part of the game.
About death saves. You're dead. You're dead. You were stupid. You learn. Move on.
Yeah. The other thing that they should learn is games like DCC with the character funnel where you play 4 characters at once, and move away from the heavy influence of character acting and thespianism in gaming. We saw this was coming when we started doing our first online play via Google Hangouts and stuff back in the day, which wasn't that long ago, but it's like prehistory by most 5th edition
feels
players.
Like it.
Yeah. So I was part of that first wave of people who were playing games together online via video chat. And it was like the Wild West. So we tried all sorts of different things. And Yeah, we learned that. Well, I could see the writing on the wall that this was very quickly going to become a different medium of play, and it required different rules and required different standards and things like that. And now we've got like safety tools and all that sort of stuff that's been introduced into the thing. Previously, the only time you would really deal with anything like that would be at gaming conventions or when you're first joining a group.
Yeah.
But most people, like the majority of people, played games with people that they knew until streaming games and
Yeah.
online gaming
It
came
was
along.
very organic. So like your friends first, and then you're willing to play a game. You don't have
Yeah,
to test them out by playing a game and then run to a different table.
yeah, and it's hard to like rage quit a dinner party. You know, that's also a gaming group.
Can I just do slash quit and leave?
Yeah, yeah. So these days, like that whole thing of like social anxiety has also led to these safety tools and things like that, and also like cancel culture and stuff, and just generally, there's a good awareness of the fact that there are predators in every community,
Mhm.
and they often hide in plain sight amongst people who don't know that they're predators.
And they're good at putting up a mask at first.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really good to have those tools and have those mediums of like, hey, something's wrong, sort of flags and signals and stuff. It's good to have them there, even if your group isn't using them. Knowledge that they exist, and when somebody needs to use them, they can still like use them and be like, oh, okay, we understand what's
Right.
going
It's
on.
just giving permission. Like I'd be uncomfortable saying I don't want to do a certain scene if there were no like preamble of, hey, you can say no at any point. But
Yeah,
then I'm more comfortable going, you guys can play this without me, but I can't do this. I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, you could always go in a role playing game. Time out, guys. Whoa. Like that's too much for me, man. Like you know, your description of like the thing is making me ill, or like I really don't like the way this is going in the game. Can we like do something else? And everybody around the table would be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's cool. We're not here to make you have a bad time.
A couple decades ago, that was usually resolved by I'm gonna go have a cigarette.
Yeah, but and on the other hand, there's also an element of role playing which has been a victim of this. And it's to give you an example, my friend Wes, so he hooks into people's emotional triggers and things like that. But that was the social contract at that table that like Wes would put you through the ringer. And at the end of it, you come out sort of like forged of iron, being able to role play any situation because, you know, oh man, like I've had my character like tortured by a dragon that had him in a cage. And at one point he would like pick up the cage and drag my character through a lake and through the treetops, so I was like blasted with sticks and twigs and stuff like and things. It was horrible, and you know he got peed on by goblins and things and stuff. And I was just like, you know, how long do I have to endure this for, Wes? And he's just like, I don't know. I mean, like, are you gonna like? I have no agency here. How am I going to get free? Like,
Right, that part
is
sucks.
it gonna happen, or is my character just going to die? Because if he's just going to die, just he's like, hey man, chill out. You know, I'm like, I'm getting invested here. Yeah, so he was like a bad shorthand for getting you invested in your character through rage and frustration and hurt and loss and stuff like that. But I was just like,
Those
yeah,
are effective. Those are really core emotions and instinctive values that we have. So it's easy to grab those. I get that.
Yeah. But they are low hanging fruit, and these days you generally don't use them. So yeah,
No, people generally leave.
generally speaking, and they should, I think. You certainly do remember those games because it keys into that survival part of that brain, like that primitive reptile part of your brain, which is like something threatened my survival, because your subconscious doesn't differentiate between reality and fiction. So if something is threatening your character's life in game, your memory system is built to lock it in, even though it didn't happen.
To you.
Yeah, so you got to be wary about like trauma and like that sort of thing with people, because they can have like very strong fight or flight responses, or just freeze up. And people who freeze up in panic situations are the ones you got to worry about, because they don't say anything.
Oh, that's a good point. And they just keep getting more and more injured, or they could.
They just sit back and go, oh, what is happening? You know?
Well, no, it's true. And like I had a game like that where, what the hell was her name? Oh, fuck, I don't remember. And I'm talking to her and she's just like I have no idea if anything's even getting through. And so like there's like the slow expression changing, but I'm like, is that a smile? Is it a grimace? Is it mocking? I have no idea what that is. And so
they go into rabbit mode.
Yes, that's it. The brain just gets staticky. So I I guess I have had issues dealing with those people so much, like such deep issues, because I didn't realize that was happening at the time. I just kept going.
Mm.
That I'm just like, okay, if I see that, I'm pausing everything. Are you okay?
Mm.
It's not hard to do, but it is kind of hard to train yourself out of something you're used to doing.
Yeah, particularly if you're an extroverted type person.
Hmm.
So I'm an introverted extrovert. So I spend most of my time completely alone by myself. I don't talk to myself. I don't have an internal monologue. It's my brain is just silent and full of D&D and work and stuff. That's it. And then when I interact with people, I've got a timer going until I need to get the hell out of there and get back to my space and recharge.
That's
But when I'm
cool.
but when I'm there, I'm fully engaged and trying to be as the, life of the party as I can be. And then it's just like, okay, time to go. So my friends know that they can get me to go to places unless there's no exit strategy for me. In which case, no, I'll be like, nah. So escape rooms, nah. I don't want to be stuck in a locked room with
That would
anybody.
be
Thank you very much.
panicky. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, man, At some point, I'll just be like, in the corner sort of thing. Like,
Since you can't physically check out, you'll mentally check out.
Yeah. It's like, are you okay, AJ? It's like, no, I need to. No offense, but get the fuck away from you people. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. Which
That's
is
one reason. Go ahead.
so weird being a YouTuber and like being this, presenter of information and stuff. But like if you meet me in real life at a convention, I'll be like, hi, how's it going? Yeah, this is weird. Bye.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're really only comfortable when you're in your citadel and you like open a portal to a different realm and you're like, hey, okay, bye.
Pretty much. Yeah. People do come and visit, which is nice for a limited time.
For a limited, I wouldn't want them to move in.
Yeah. I'm literally like a wizard in a tower. That is my personality type. Like I identify as a wizard. So yeah. Treat me appropriately. Come around and I'm like, what are you doing? Some weird experiment, okay? Some weird, strange. Like, what's with the plants, the electrodes? It's like, don't even ask. I'm doing strange experiments with things beyond your ken. What are you writing? Some weird like character creation. It's like, right, that's what we're talking about. The future of gaming. Yeah, at the moment, I am in the process of writing a superhero game, and it's not your average superhero game. I've taken what I love about superhero games and my practical knowledge of how they're played online, and results may vary for people. But over the years, I've learned like one of my passions is this one here. This is the one I've been playing all my life, pretty much since the early '80s.
I do recommend.
We were listening to like Melissa Etheridge and REM and Red Hot Chili Peppers whilst this was playing. We were playing this. Miller had just like done his Dark Knight series, and Spider-Man had given up being Spider-Man. That era. This is just before all the superheroes started wearing pouches and carrying big weapons because And McFarlane changed the way that Spider-Man's webs looked. And got
Wearing pouches? I'm confused.
Yeah, Cable, and those guys, the X Factor and X Force, and
like their utility belt kind of thing.
Everything was extreme back in the day. Yeah, the utility belts and stuff. So that it was just like pouches everywhere and outlandish figurines. Anyway, so this game here, the thing I love the most about this game is that you can randomly roll your characters just using like some percentile dice and stuff, and randomly roll pretty much anything, and everything else is like skill packages and stuff like that. So there is a bit of accounting and bookwork involved because it is a crunchy system, but you can come up with some really interesting character combos that you had no idea you were going to start off with until you start rolling some dice. So that I love. The game that I'm making at the moment is not crunchy in that it has no attribute points. It's got no hit points. It's got no level progression. It's got no game mechanics in that regard of any kind. So it's all narrative. It follows the role-playing structure in that you have a group of characters that you're all playing. You're all sitting around in a circle sort of thing, or you're on like, generally it's designed for like Zoom meeting play or like, Google Hangouts or whatever, broadcast play. So it needs to be something that's very quick to pick up. You don't need a rule book. All you have is your character sheet, which has basically got a bunch of categories of info about your character so that you know what they can do and where they're coming from. But you don't need to worry about any statistics or any rules mechanics or rolling dice or anything to slow down the action of the narrative. So in this, essentially, you just pitch what your character is doing, and the host of the call, they're not even GM or DM, they're just the host of the meeting, describes what's going on in the story. And so that's the way you play it. Because in superhero games, they don't really lend themselves very well to tabletop and miniatures and all those sort of mechanics and stuff in the first place, because it's so wildly variable what the character can do. If they can teleport like a mile, form. yeah, that sort of thing. Like if they can cut through a car door with their eye beams and things, like how does that translate into stats where somebody's got a gun or something? So quite often it's just it's the fun in supers games is the what if aspect of it. It's like, what if somebody with water powers encountered somebody with flame powers and stuff? And it's largely arbitration anyway, what goes on in the game. So the DM in a supers game has a lot of leeway as to what's happening. So it's just like, let's lean into it. Let's remove all the barriers of entry. And this is my knee-jerk reaction to the saga, the OGL saga, and Hasbro gatekeeping the community and making you sign up to a website in order to get the rule books that you don't actually own, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I remember then you were pitching this then.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm making a game that I'm going to present the core concept of the game as a video that anybody can download and watch in 5 seconds. It's really just like a pep talk of like, this is what a role-playing game is in essence. Everything else is secondary to this. If you take a game and you strip it down to its bare elements, superatomic. We're getting so rules light that there are no rules going on here. So we're stripping it right back to what is a role-playing game. It's a freewheeling idea bullshit fest. You're sitting around a table and you're talking bullshit for a few hours and you're having fun with your friends in a rough framework of a game.
And that's a real rules light game. I've heard 5e referred to as rules light. Where? This is rules light.
Yeah, no, this is rules light. So I've also very early on, one of the first rules light ideas I had was the D4 system. And essentially that's all it is. It's one page and it's just like a D4. I've got a video about this. So the D4 represents dice rolls in a nutshell. It's the lowest, apart from a 50-50, it's the lowest, which gives you nuance. So a 1 is a success and a 4 is a failure. So a 1 would be a critical success. So it's a success with a benefit. A 2 is a success, but with no benefits. It's just you succeed. 3 is a fail, basic fail. And a 4 is a critical failure. Or it could be either way around. So 1 is a critical failure and a 4 is
That's easy to adjudicate.
Yeah. So it takes this idea of roll a dice and it's either really good or bad or really bad. And that's essentially all that you use dice for in role-playing games. Statistics and probability and all that sort of stuff. Sure, if you love that sort of thing, all power to you. I think it's a bunch of witchcraft. I don't believe in it. As soon as you roll the dice, bouncing off surfaces, chaos can happen. There's no statistics that's going to predict where that's going to land. So it doesn't really matter. And so, yeah, and playing a game with that extreme, like you can play advantage and disadvantage. So roll 2d4 and take the highest, or 2d4 and take the lowest, which drastically changes the odds there. And that's all you need for dice mechanics for a game, really. Everything else is just narrative, and all of the stuff around that, and like influencing the dice rolls, +1, -1, +4, -4. It's smoke and mirrors. It doesn't.
I'm really glad you're getting rid of that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's so much obsession and worry about them. Yeah, like I rolled a 9 versus an 11. You failed. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you can have a +5 and a +1, as you see on Baldur's Gate 3, and still roll a 2 and fail on a. So yeah, so it's just taking away all the bullshit and all of the unnecessary mechanics that I call it the taint of D&D, where you believe there must be level progression. It's like, well, what happens if your character in the game encounters some odd goo, which has clearly mutated all these animals, and they get smothered with it? They're going to mutate and get additional abilities and stuff in the game, and it doesn't matter what level they are, because it's a story-based progression, which is what role levels are shorthanding anyway. So if you take 5th edition, for example, when you level up in 5th edition, magically you get new spells and stuff if you're a wizard. It's like, did you go and study at a spell school for 6 months to get those things? Did you pay money to do that? No. So
were you on the trail scribbling in your notebook? You didn't say that. I don't know.
Did you encounter a random tutor that was just walking along through the dungeon and just gave you this information? I don't think so. So it is broken. It's failed in that regard. It's representing something now in mechanics that no longer make any sense. So like moving it completely away from that, if you go back to the narrative and get rid of the mechanics, now it makes sense again. It's like, oh, okay, there's a chance at any point during this game that my character could get additional superpowers and mutations. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I don't care about levels or how many guys I kill. I'm just going to go for every weird looking thing I can find. Excellent. Now we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, having to count like enemies, like that's bookkeeping. It's being
yeah, it slows everything down. It's really boring, unless you get off on accounting, I guess. I don't know.
An accountant, Jesus, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
That is boring as hell. Like, I've played, the reason that I got, okay, not many people know this, but I love the World of Darkness. And the reason that I started loving World of Darkness is because I started loving VTM. The reason that happened is because you can just say what you're doing. Like, yes, you have points that you have to distribute, but it's so that you are aware of what you're supposed to be good at. Like, if your driving skill is 1, you're going to be hitting lampposts. Okay.
Yeah. So that's exactly how I'm handling the powers and stuff. So the only real specific thing that you get in this game as resources, and they're going to be free PDFs that I give to everybody to download and just roll on and play, is being more specific about what the superpowers actually can do. So in a narrative game, that's what you need, is you need specifics about, like, if I can shoot flames out of my hands, how far can those flames go and what things can I do with them? Like, can I reduce it down to a blowtorch from one finger and cut through a vault? It's like, yeah, I think you probably could, those are the questions that come up in Supers games most often, and they are poorly handled by dice rolls, but they're really well handled by limitations and caps on things. And one of the caps and limitations is if you have a lot of superpowers, you also get a lot of mutations, and the less human you are, because if you can run at Mach 1, your legs are going to be like not human legs. That is the ability to withstand the equivalent of a landmine going off under your foot every time you put a foot down.
It'd be like made of adamantine or something.
Yeah, exactly. So a kick from that character is going to be able to crush a car door. No problem. But it'll also send them flying sideways unless they've got some sort of weird momentum control. For instance, another thing is it's super speed. Like you might be able to run as fast as a car or run as fast as any land vehicle. So or run faster than any land vehicle. But if you get to the point where you are running at a quantum level, like the Flash does, where he's outside of space-time sort of thing, you are teleporting but interacting with things along the way, which is what a probability sort of effect is. Like an electron can be in that place, but it can be interacting with everything there until it settles in its position. And I have fun telling a fairy tale story about this. Like, the princess had all these princes that she needed to marry, so she split herself magically into all these different princesses, and they all married the different princes, and then finally all the princesses disappeared. They still had children and stuff with those princes. They were very confused, but only the princess that was in the perfect place existed. It's like, that sounds weird. Yeah, but that's how reality works.
Yeah, reality is strange.
That's how weird quantum is. Yeah, reality is based on magic, people.
It's like the holographic universe concept.
Yeah. We have clock speed and everything. Processor speed. So a character that can run so fast that time seems to stop. And you have this with like Quicksilver in the X-Men movie, where he's running so fast that everything is just moving in slow motion. He's like moving it and stuff this way. And you see his face is like plastered because the air that he's running through is a solid medium. It's like water. So he is pushing through it, and that's what this character that's who's traveling at speed has to be extremely strong and able to like hold their breath for a long period of time, because you can't physically breathe that stuff. Your body processes are now no longer human. Like, you can't be a person who respires to gain energy and that sort of thing. You need to be an energy-based being, essentially, because you're now in a quantum state outside of normal physics. So friction, for instance, if you're running at that speed, you're pushing through a medium which is heating up and burning you as you go. because you're moving that fast. So
Yeah, you would have to have
you
some
need,
sort of molecular power that makes your bonds really tight.
yeah. So when you think about the superpower, you're like, okay, that's like teleporting from one place to another and interacting with everything along the way. That's super speed. Yeah, that's like just you're moving so fast that everything has stopped and turned into a solid, and you have to push through it.
What you've just described is a narration that the GM is responsible for. But how do you teach somebody to be a GM for a system like this? Because people don't start out having good judgment or understanding the intricacies or logical consequences.
Yeah, you start out with limited possibilities. So you have light superpowers and things like that. So you're never going to get the super mega heroes. They're more like street level heroes where they can lift a car or push a door in or something like that. Like no mega super extremo powers, like no completely invulnerable character or that sort of thing. Like intangible, but you can still be electrocuted or poison
Or like
gas
Daredevil.
you. Yeah, that sort of thing. Keeping it within a bound of a certain setting. And what I'm planning on doing is releasing packages for DMs so they can run, like if you want to run a 1930s campaign of superheroes like Atomic Punk, that's the one that I want to do to start off with and give that sort of thing as the base vibe for the game to start off with. Restricted to something ridiculous like the Tick comic, where you have characters with the ability to, I'm full of tinier men, and you basically are a Russian doll. So there's another smaller person inside you, or the power, or the power to eject like mucilage, or Metamucil, or that sort of thing. Or
I like
the power to control squirrels.
Oh my God. I liked the power. I don't remember the comic book series, but it was he could grow larger and stronger, but his intelligence was comparative, inversely proportional to his size. So he got dumber and dumber. So the bigger he got, the more pissed off he got, and the bigger he got. So like he had to be mind controlled to settle down, so that he didn't just like flatten the city.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And you don't need mechanics for that. You can just do it narratively.
Totally.
It's like, here's the limitation. Like, here's what your character can do, but you must role play this. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Have you thought about creating a storytelling course? Because you could do that and people benefit from it.
No, I haven't. Maybe I should.
People don't have that skill.
Oh, I suppose I could. I don't know. I'm busy with this at the moment. I only got so many hours in a day. I've really wanted to do this for a long time, and I'm so glad that we've got this opportunity now with indie games and stuff, and like changing the narrative about how we play online. That we can move away from mechanics. It's okay. You don't need to cling to those things, because that's how those companies are controlling you and how we play our fun. Because role playing is free. It's free, people. You don't need to pay any money for it. It's a social game. You don't need to buy products and stuff like that. You can just host it. My idea is I put this out there for free. Anybody can pick up and play it. You can start playing it immediately. You just sit down, roll some dice, make a character. Bam, you're playing and straight away. You get it almost immediately. It is role playing in its purest sense. And if anybody wants to make third-party content, like they want to make adventures and stories and stuff that you can run using this system, go for it.
I can think of a few supernatural dark powers to go along with that are just role-playing oriented. Like the La Sombra and the VTM, they could have shadow power. What kind of shadow power do you have? You can define that separately.
Part of the reason why it's taken me so long to do this, to get to this point so far, is I had to make some hard decisions about like stripping away all of the role-playing game stuff, because it was a really hard decision for me to make. I looked at all sorts of different role-playing games. And then I came up with this it's about 700 different super abilities that I've gathered from all sorts of different things. Yeah, so I've got a lot of writing to do. How long did
that take you? Just compiling that?
A while. Yeah. So, I've got a lot of content to put out for it. So it's not content light, it's just rules light. Yeah. The good thing is I don't have to do all the statistics for all those powers. I can just describe them.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good. And
it's like you can control metal. That's all. I can do the next entry.
Yeah, and I did go to university. I did study biology and that sort of thing. So I know I know a little bit of physics and stuff, but I can ask people. If I'm confused. Yeah, but I got a lot of work to do. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
So interesting. Have you had an inspiration for the framework of this? Like, was there a different game that you played in the past, or just like personal experiences that sort of made you want to have just this acting, role playing, investing yourself in the situation experience?
Yeah, there's the D4 system and various like there was an era of like rules light and one page RPGs have always been fascinating to me. Robbie Howell is just producing the Enclave system via Kickstarter, and here it is here actually. That's Enclave, and that is a narrative based game as well. It's got narrative mechanics, and also Dennis of the OKSDM, he's got Saga's system, which is system agnostic, genre agnostic storytelling, I think it's called.
That's a cool acronym.
It's got a bit more mechanics to it. And Robbie uses attributes and stuff. So your statistics, you've got vitality, might, resilience, spirit, arcane, will, sensory, reflex, vigor, skill, intelligence, and luck. So quite a lot, but it covers a lot of all the different things that your character can do. And so there's a spectrum of rules like games which are coming down the pipeline, I think. And I think the future of gaming should certainly encourage people to use it and get it out of their mindset that a rules light game is a content light game or a control light game, or it's just like narratively inconsistent or something,
or boring.
Because that's or boring. It's really not like that at all, or too much like thespian, or encourages, or you have to play in character or put on a voice or wear costumes, and that's not what it's like at all. It really is just
you can do that with anything.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you're not going to stop people doing that in D&D either, you know. So it's not a game which is oriented around that. It's just like it's just a conversation. It's just bullshitting in a circle, really. Campfire sort of, you know. What if that's what role playing games are?
I like that, but I've been in sessions, not many, but a few sessions where I'm a player and it is a bullshit session and I do things that my character can do, and the game stalls because the storyteller has no conflict. There's nothing that is something to get over or changing the scene. They just also wanted to be thespians in the situation. And that's boring as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Playing a game where you're like, you're an accountant. Yeah. It's like, oh, Sharon is blah. Yeah, that happens. It's like, oh, okay. Like, well, is there a villain in this story? It's like, is there somebody for me to like get threatened by and fight? It's like, oh, well, we know we don't want that sort of aggression in the game. It's like, oh, well, that's not what I'm here for, man. Like,
oh. You want that sort of aggression in the game?
Yeah. Is there any sort of like...
It's like telling people they can't use their imaginations. What the hell?
It's like, I signed up for two-fisted action here. Like, I came here with bubblegum and kick-ass, and I'm out of bubblegum. I want to beat something up. Is that okay? And like, okay, like, good. Well, summon a monster or something. Like, have something run amok, please.
Yeah.
It's like...
anything at that point.
You mentioned a robot. Is that robot going to go out of control? Because I want to beat up that robot. It's like, yes. Yeah. That's the sort of thing. But so part of the packages and stuff that I'll be producing, I'm thinking of them like 1930s codex, like the codex of 1930. Like, what are all the tropes of 1930s? You got prohibition. It's a pre-World War II sort of stuff. So like early military research. You got Tommy guns and gangsters. You've got like immigration and cultural disparity problems in America. Like abusive sort of sweatshops and stuff. There's all sorts of like themes that you can use, but also technology inventions, because we know exactly when things happened. But you can say, what would happen if World War I never actually happened, or if aliens arrived at that point, right before World War II. So we know exactly what the political situation is. It's one of the very well documented areas of history. So
like the Watchmen series, this is a good idea because it twists things from that point on.
Yeah. So it's really fun to play in those tropes, and of course, Supers games are all about that. It's like the what if situation. So you can be right in it, but also be really funny at the same time. So have potentially really serious themes, but just be slapsticking it like all the time, which is what most role-playing games turn into anyway.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have friends playing with you.
Yeah. That's why I call like the person who runs the game the host, because that's the language that we use. It's like, what do you call your turn? Your turn. It's like, what do you call your go? Your go. Like, I don't need to call it like the tavern master or the fireside storyteller. It's just like, no, you're the host of the game. Like,
yeah, there is a lot of filler content, but it seems like that is something that people find easier to latch onto because they don't have the skills to open their mind and encompass everything that could be happening. They
Yeah,
want step by step. It seems easier. It's a
yeah,
psychological trick.
yeah. This is like, I think I know what role playing games are. Yeah, you do. Here it is. Like, that's exactly what it is. You don't need to learn anything more. You already know what a role playing game is. This is just all sorts of resources that you tack onto it. Have
So where
fun.
can people find this?
So I'm still writing it at the moment. I'll be slowly uploading it and probably produce a Discord server just to organize everything. But essentially, I'm going to be releasing it on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and through Patreon as well. But there'll be free uploads and free videos on Patreon. So people just have to log into the Patreon to get access to it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and
I'm
my
looking forward to
Patreon
it.
membership's only like $1 a month anyway. So
Yeah.
you know, if you want to throw me a couple of coins for a can of beans, that'd be nice. But I really just want to give this to everybody for free because I've been wanting to do it for ages, and I make a modest income from my YouTube activities anyway. So I just want to give this to everybody and give a big fuck you to Hasbro, essentially.
Are you thinking about putting this on any website that could host it? I don't know what the other options are, but I mean like DM's Guild.
No, because that's the DM's Guild is fifth edition stuff, and even Pathfinder Infinite is all that, and that's like profit sharing and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, yeah, the problem with if you put it on DM's Guild is they also own it as well. So Drive Through RPG, maybe, I don't know. I don't really like the community of that's involved in that whole situation there. I hear a lot of drama. And I don't need to get involved in that. And there's plenty of other things that you can host it on, like itch.io and other places as well. So I might try putting on, just make it as ubiquitously downloadable and available as possible. I imagine a lot of people will just copy paste it anyway, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's true. I'd love to look over the rules.
Yeah. It'd basically be a pitch video. So it's like, here's the idea. Sit down, watch the video. It's like, okay, I get it. So I just roll on these tables here. Yep.
That would be great.
You can use dice mechanics if you want to. It's like the DM at any point can say, have you got some dice there? It's like, roll the dice. It's like, what do I get? 15 on a 20? Yeah, you succeed.
Yeah, when I was making the transition from VTM to D&D and I would ask people to roll, I would sometimes call out the answer before the roll stopped because I don't care what the hell the roll is.
It's like, if the narrative that you gave me about what your character is doing is cool enough and everybody is invested, why do you need to roll a dice? Just do it. Just do it.
They're pretty. I don't know, like it's a fidgety thing. Like people feel like they want to do something. I don't know. Maybe it's nerves.
Yeah. Well, there's other games for rolling dice. I mean, you can still own dice. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can use the dice in the game if you want to. I don't care. I'm not going to tell you not to.
Oh, I'm excited about it. This is going to be fun to look over and try to start with people. I don't even know how that would begin, but like, I don't know how to find people to game with.
Just get well, the easiest way to get a gaming group is to run games. That's it. So you host a game and people will be like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. I'll play. So get good at your pitches of like what your game is going to be, and then get really good at negotiating with people and understanding where they're coming from. And don't run into situations like I had where they come up with a really crazy character. So it's like, look, I've got some pre-gens here already made. I'll explain the rules to you. Just play the pre-gens on our first few sessions. That way I know exactly what your character can do and we can just get to know each other. You don't need to worry about like making the character and all that sort of stuff and gelling and all that sort of thing. Just run some pre-gen characters.
That's cool. That makes sense. That's what you seem to be accomplishing there is what I try to accomplish by having one-on-one like introduction role play sessions, hypothetical situations when somebody's making a character and they want to join my game. I find it near impossible to try to have enough attention for one-on-one to gather information about how this person interacts when other people around the table are saying, oh, how do you run this rule? Or where do I find this? Or can you make my character for me? So yeah, it makes sense to have a separate session that doesn't involve all the extra crap. So the pre-gen works.
Also, if you're writing adventures and you've got pre-generated characters for those adventures, you can write so much better adventures that way, where you've got like, here is your character. This is where they're going to do some really amazingly cool stuff. Like in this scene and this scene and this scene, that they're specifically designed for people who are playing that character to do like really well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've got built-in fun moments where you're a hero. So that's good. It's not a negative really, and it's also not railroady because they can avoid those situations as well. Yeah, but I do recommend pre-gens. That's why most box starter sets have pre-generated characters, so you don't have to worry about that. That's that barrier to entry of having to figure out how to make a character to begin with.
It also teaches, I mean, I hope it teaches new players or players that are new to you that if you tell the storyteller, the host, let's say, what your character is good at, bad at, and the details of it, it only helps you. You don't need to keep secrets from the GM to surprise them later because you want the monsters to be surprised. If you're playing with a GM that uses out of character knowledge like that, get a different GM. There are others out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Also, if you're a DM and you've got really good ideas for what to put into the adventure, put them in there straight away. Don't
Yes.
don't delay thinking that you're going to save the good stuff until later because you just end up with a big boring patch and then just cram it in there and then the next idea will come to you and cram that in there and cram that into there. So that at the end of the adventure, everybody's got sort of a brain fog numbness and they're just like, man, I'm adventured out, man. I can't handle any more excitement right now.
Let's have some pizza and just chill.
Yeah, like a phone call right now would give me a nervous breakdown.
Let me ask you, sort of jumping off of that. So you are starting a session for the first time. Okay, I'll use myself as an example. When I'm the GM for a group, I'm like, okay, so I'm looking for people to do this kind of adventure. I work like this. I will be direct with you. If you don't like it, you need to tell me directly. I will be upfront and honest. And if something isn't going to work in my system, I'll tell you. So give me your information. So that's how I give feed forward about what to expect when I'm starting a game. Mm-hmm. What kind of info do you think matters the most for you as like a player? What did you want to hear?
So if you've got a concept for a game and it's like, say, to give the example of the Tick game, like I've got a game coming up with the DM's Roundtable where it's my turn to host, and we've started playing games now, and we've played a lot of rules-like systems like Morkborg and Dungeon Crawl Classics.
I saw the last Morkborg. That was cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And so for this one, I'm going to be trying out this system here, which is very rules-like and stuff, but the idea is that the characters are characters from the Tick. So they're street-level, failed sort of heroes with sub-minor abilities that are just really funny. And the whole situation is going to be kind of funny. The last time I ran this, it was like a Halloween time, but the villain was stealing all the candy from the town. And we had a character who was called the Possum.
The villain.
He could manipulate toys and create constructs. So he was like an evil Dexter genius character that was stealing all the candy because he never got trick-or-treating or anything like that.
Sorry, the bad guy was the Possum?
No. One of the heroes was the Possum. So the Possum's ability was to basically play Possum, to pretend to be dead. And he did that right at the start of the adventure and like basically lay down and died on the side of the road. I'm like, okay. And all through the adventure maintained that disguise. And then right at the end of the adventure, he's popped up and grabbed the villain and won. I'm just like, that could not have worked out even like the Possum. The infinite power of the Possum. It's like, oh my God. But we had characters that were, all of their abilities were related to fast food. So he could like create fountains of grease and like salt and pepper and all that sort of stuff. I know. Another person who could use, like the Green Lantern, except it was chewing gum.
What?
So
What do you mean it was chewing gum?
So they had the ability to control bubble gum, like a animate and control bubble gum.
Using their imagination. Oh God.
Yeah. So So he'd made lassos and Spider-Man type things, and made hammers and like sticky patches on the ground and stuff, all with like his bubble gum.
I like that because it's sort of like cartoon character. That just sounds like a lot of fun.
Because it was the Tick theme, so we're going with the Tick theme.
That totally does work. I like that. I would love playing that.
Yeah, but you can mix that into a relatively serious game. Like my character has super strength, and he also has the ability that he always has $20 in his pocket, no matter what. He always has $20 on hand. To tip somebody, get a thing, that sort of thing.
I've seen that actually work, but that was in a mage game, and this character always had beef jerky in his pocket. So when there was something happening, he'd just pull out some beef jerky and start chewing because he had the power to theoretically have it on him at all times. So I could never argue. It was just a weird little quirk of the character.
Yeah, like the question from JLA, like Justice League. The question is one of the question. He's this character. He's like an investigator that wears a mask that blanks his face, and he has this power of knowledge of obscure things. Like, for instance, he says those little tags at the end of your shoelaces are called blah blah blah, and their purpose is sinister. And you're like, what? What? But he has this power of knowledge of conspiracy theories and deep state and all that sort of stuff, and he just rambles about these things which just confuse you. Like, what the hell? It's like, yeah, did you know that windows are actually a liquid? And he just like pushes his hand through it slowly. What? You know.
Okay, I like that. Like random physics that don't make sense or work.
Yeah. Or you could say something like you could throw in some real physics if you know real physics, like the metal gallium, for instance, which melts at body temperature. Mm-hmm. If you scratch a piece of aluminium, like aluminium siding on the side of a house, it changes, it instantly alloys with the aluminium and gives it the strength consistency of tissue paper. So you can literally scratch around it, smear gallium into it, and then just push somebody's sliding.
Are you serious? That's real physics?
I probably shouldn't say that in public, but yes, you can.
That's cool.
Try it with a Coke can first before you try it on your house. It's not a restricted material. It costs a bit of money, but it's available to anybody because it's not toxic.
Yeah, I've seen you can order it on Amazon. I don't know why you can order gallium on Amazon, but whatever.
Yeah. So, yeah. Learn. Educate yourself, people. Wikipedia. It's free.
I was kind of wondering about like how you start with safety tools, but not really safety tools, just sort of like what kind of format do you think would be helpful for somebody to tell people up front, this is what to expect? Like I run horror, psychological, that kind of thing.
Literally just write down like a blurb, like it's a video game or a movie promo or preview type thing. Quite often what we did back in the day when we were starting off streaming is we made a little video intro, like that was like literally like a preview thingy for a movie, like that little thing that I sent you for Superatomic.
Yeah, dude, that's a good idea.
Exactly what we do. So you have a theme song, you have a montage of images to get them excited and making them think about what they want to be in that game.
Well, even without that, everybody's got a phone. You could make a video just outlining what's going on, and it also shows your face and expressions so people can connect with you better. I didn't think of doing a video as an intro. That's cool. That's smart.
Yeah, like use the multimedia that we have. You know, it doesn't all have to be text based.
Well, with that, let's at least officially end. So thank you for joining me, AJ. I feel uncomfortable at this point in every video. That's why I have silly ass shit to say at the end of every video.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, that. I do appreciate you being here. And it's been fun chatting with you in general, but also it had a purpose of hopefully helping people understand how to get into games, how to get into a gaming group, what to deal with weird, shitty things happening in a gaming group, and how to, well, hopefully, how to expand their mind a bit when going to other games, like a truly rules light system. And I know that it's not on your radar right now, but it really would be helpful for people if you said some blurbs at least about how to storytell, because it's like, I've noticed that whatever somebody is really, really good at, they just take for granted. They don't really notice that other people can't do it. And that's what you're doing.
Well, I am making some videos with the Derailed Fantasy, which are basically adventure scenarios that I'm narrating for you. So it gives you a very good idea of what it's like when I'm DMing a game.
I have not watched those. I will.
Oh, you definitely should. They're like my magnum opus videos. So yeah, for sure.
Cool. I'm going to stop the recording then. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Jesus.